Your copes will destroy you, right? You will never overcome your addictions or your bad habits until you recognize the ways you keep making excuses for them and keep coping, right? You will never overcome this until you destroy these copes, right? And it doesn't matter what type of, you know, copes you have, right? Like it could be like a literal addiction, like to alcohol, right? Where you're just super addicted to alcohol and you don't think it's a problem because in the society, unfortunately, people don't know, like they always cope. Oh, like a drink once in a while is not that bad. But it's never once in a while, for most of you at least. And even if you do it once in a while, that's like saying drinking rat poison once in a while is fine. It's like no. Or cocaine once in a while is fine. It's like no. You know what I mean? Like if we take your copes to the extreme level, you realize, yeah, that's bad, right? And unfortunately, these copes that you have, especially the miniature ones, like they're the worst ones, right? Because at the end of the day, you will have these copes for eternity, and you will never give up. These, and it doesn't even have to be just addictions, but bad habits in general. It could be like, for example, bad habits like not working out. For how many days have you been saying you're going to work out, but you did not work out? Or you're inconsistent with your workouts without a valid reason, right? Or you you like to pretend it's a valid reason because you've conditioned yourself to cope so hard that now you think it's a valid reason, but it was never really a valid reason, right? And you deep down know it's not a valid reason, but again, you made like this anime story arc that, oh yeah, it is actually a valid reason, but no, it's not a valid reason. At the end of the day, it's not a valid reason, right? And you know this deep down, right? Now, by all means, if it actually is a valid reason, right? Like, I don't know. Like, you got into a car accident or something. Okay, fine. Sure. Great. But, oh, I feel tired. I kind of did work out yesterday, but it wasn't really that much. Or I worked out the day before that. You see what I mean? Like, you keep coping and you keep coping, right? And so many people I know that are like this, right? And whenever people like cope like that, especially with really bad habits, I instantly lose respect for them. Like I'll give you an example of this one guy that I know. He started coping about, oh, drinking alcohol isn't that bad once in a while. And all I said to him, they've done studies on this and they found that no amount of alcohol is good for you, right? Now you can keep coping and you know you can develop the estrogen, right? And ironically, this guy is also like overweight, right? And like he's not the only one. I know so many people that cope with this. It's like, man, what is wrong with you people, right? And unfortunately, the society, right, and the propaganda has like conditioned people to cope, right? Even the doctors cope. Oh yeah, junk food's not bad once in a while, and that's what really pisses me off because it's like, what do you mean it's not bad once in a while? Like, would my life improve if I never did this? And if the answer is yes, then by default you should never be doing this. You know what I mean? What are you coping so hard for? That you're trying to keep something a bad habit. It's like lingering around. Like, oh yeah, you do it like once a week or once a month, and it's just lingering there, and it's still like, your life would just be so much better without that cope of like, oh no, that drink once in a while is not that bad, or eating junk food once in a while is not that bad. You know it is bad. You know it is, right? But again, you probably have a group of like yes men, right? Wait, that like have basically like they're coping, like you're coping, right? But then it's worse when other people around you convince you that your cope is also real because they're coping as well, right? And it's not even just about like alcohol and drugs or gambling. It's about like the subtle copes, everyday copes you use to, let's say, justify not working out, not eating right, not going to sleep on time, not improving yourself. You've been lying to yourself. That's what coping really is. It's lying to yourself. And the longer you keep lying, the deeper you sink into the rabbit hole, right? And you see you sink deeper into that weakness. So much so that it becomes very too difficult to lift it up and give up that weakness. Unfortunately, unfortunately, if you keep this up, you will deal with these copes for literally the rest of your life. Right? It becomes a cycle, unfortunately. Right? Like, how many people do you know that said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna work out," right? And you even like you take them with you like once or twice, right? And then they maybe work out for a month, and then they fall off, right? And then they fall off for like the next 6 months or even a year, and then next year when the new year hits, they're like, "Oh no, actually, new year, new me." It's because they were if they had just stuck to it and not coped, and it's just like, how can you even respect someone like that? You know what I mean? It's just people like that, honestly, like they just disgust me, right? These copes that you have, like all the weak people around you have copes, right? And look, even strong people have copes, but they don't let that cope be the final decision, right? I'll even tell you, like myself, there's many days I don't feel like training, and I really do have like the valid reasons, right? In anyone else's mind, it's a valid reason. In my own mind, it's not, right? Unless it's like super necessary type of thing, like which is like very rare, right? But the funny thing is, I still make myself go, and then when I go and train, right after I'm done training, I'm like, man, I'm so glad I came. Even if it wasn't the best workout, I'm so glad I came because this is so much better than just sitting at home and doing nothing, right? And it's and some of these copes that people have, man, aren't even real. Sometimes that's even worse, right? It's like one thing to have a cope that's like, okay, it's somewhat real, but it's kind of like it's fake. Like, I don't want to say it's fake, but it's kind of a valid reason, but it's not strong enough, basically, right? Like, oh, I worked out, like I'm still sore, or I didn't get the best night of sleep. No, you need to stay on that routine. I understand that sleep is important and everything, but you need to stay on it. Right? You cannot break away from the routine. Right? You can't cope. Right? And I'll give you but it's so much worse when the cope isn't real, but they've convinced themselves that it's real. Like, for example, when people say they're overweight and they just blame genetics. Like, these morons actually blame genetics for being overweight. There are even doctors that are like this. I don't understand how you can say something like, "Oh, being overweight and out of shape is genetics," when, like, literally for most of human history, literally for majority of human history, people have never been fat. Today, the only people that were fat were maybe like, the ultra like aristocratic like elite people. Sure, that might be possible, right? But this is the only time in human history where poor people are even fatter than those kings and like aristocrat elites of the past. And that has unfortunately forced us into being docile more, right? And then, man, it's just like, it's not even just the weight thing, and I'm just talking about copes overall, right? I'm just using these analogies for you guys to understand, right? It could apply to being out of shape. It could apply to being procrastinating, right? It could apply to, scrolling for hours instead of sleeping, or scrolling for hours instead of working, right? Even before this video, funny enough, right? I'll even hold myself accountable here. I was I was kind of doom scrolling a little bit actually before I was recording this video. Before I was planning on recording this video, I did doom scroll, right? But I caught myself and I was like, no, we're recording this right now. I don't care if I'm not prepared enough or whatever, right? We're just gonna do it. And honestly, that's why I kind of like recording these videos because it keeps me in this routine, right? Now that depends on what your life goals are and anything, right? But the point is, stop with these coping mechanisms, right? And these these are like fugazi. They're not real, bro. Coping. The reason people cope is because they feel comfortable, right? And unfortunately, comfort is the graveyard of ambition, right? How many people, you give them a little bit of, just the very basic necessities, and they just give up on life, basically, right? And I think I'm probably gonna be butchering that quote, but it's like you give a man some food, some water, and I guess a significant other, and you will see him throw his life away, right? And he will throw all his ambitions to the side, to the wayside, right? If you just give him these things, right? Sometimes you don't even have to give him the significant other part, right? Like the other two are good enough, food and water, right? Especially lots of food, which seems to be the case nowadays, right? But the thing is now you may be asking, you have these copes, right? And unfortunately, you do try to justify it. So how do you break away from it? So this is how you break away from it. You stop trying to justify it. You stop making up these anime arc stories in your head. And like, oh no, actually, I was bullied this one time, and that led me to being insecure. And now I like overeat because of that kid from like 10 years ago. People like actually create these stories in their head, and that's why they unfortunately keep coping for literally eternity. How many people do you know for literally their whole life they were pathetic, and I mean like they were just overweight for majority of their life, and they saw nothing wrong with it. And the only time they saw it was wrong per se is maybe when someone pointed out occasionally. And even when that was pointed out, they made this anime arc story in their head to cope with it, right? And I was never overweight, luckily, right? If anything, I was like the opposite. I was more skinny, right? But now I'm a lot better, right? But the point is, with junk food, like if you want to learn how to quit junk food, do watch my other video. But you can also join my Patreon, and I basically help people, like you know, with self improvement and quitting bad habits and quitting junk food, right? Definitely recommend you guys join the Patreon, right? It is linked below, right? But when I was in the process of trying to quit junk food, a lot of the times this is what I would cope with, and that is, oh, I worked out today, so therefore it's okay to eat junk food. But it's like, who said so? Who made it okay? It's not okay. That's like the equivalent of saying, and so many people have the same exact cope that this is the equivalent of saying, oh yeah, today I made, let's just say $100,000. Today I made $100,000, so it's okay to burn like 10K of that money. It's not that bad. Like you'd be like, no, bro, what is wrong with you? Let's keep all the 100K. Why do we need to burn 10K? That's dumb, right? That's literally dumb, right? So this is where unfortunately people start to cope, right? And I hope that analogy made sense, right? The 100K, you're burning 10K. So whenever you cope in your mind, right? When you supposedly work out, right? And then you say, oh, it justifies doing a bad habit, like eating junk food or slacking off or whatever. Remember, you're basically burning like 10K, right? Because you put all that work, and now you have to work harder the next day. When you could have just kept that 100K, right? And like the day after that, you would have had another 100K. But now, because you burned that, 10K, you're stuck with 90K. And the next day, you're 10K short, right? And the problem is, a lot of people, again, even in the comment section, people are probably going to cope. Like, who knows, right? I would not be surprised, right? People always cope, especially in a lot of comment sections I've seen, right? Which is why, luckily, I don't go on the comment section anymore, right? If you're not brutally honest with yourself, you will cope with your bad habits for eternity and you will never change, right? And denial is the first layer of failure. You cannot fix what you cannot acknowledge, right? At the end of the day, man, you have to be brutally honest. And if you're brave enough, you can comment below. Right? If you're not brave enough, you at least admit it to your mind or write it down somewhere, right? And are you weak? Admit it. Then get stronger. Are you lazy? Admit it. Then take action. Are you undisciplined? Admit it. Then create structure. Are you overweight? Admit it. Then lose that weight. Do you eat junk food? Admit it. Then give it up. Right? Etc. 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 Right? You need to be brutally honest to break free from these copes. Like, I mean, the copes are like, if you guys know Greek mythology, Atlas, I believe, is the figure, right? In Greek mythology, he's the one who's holding up the weight of the world, right? And when you're holding up the weight of the world, right, that weight stays with you, right? And then when you cope, more weight gets added onto it. Now it's like a lot heavier, right? So much heavier, right? And then another cope gets added. Oh no, right? And then lo and behold, you have so much, and it's like it's almost impossible to literally pick that up and throw it, right? And your copes. Problem is when you have copes, it's not just one cope. No, what happens is you have this one cope, and you build up another one, then another one, then another one, then another one, and it keeps compiling up until you just can't lift, and then lo and behold, you're stuck with that for eternity, right? So I know this may seem daunting, but at least admit everything, right? And then take it one step at a time, right? Start off slow, but not too slow, right? Which will probably be another video, right? I'll probably make another video on start off slow, but not too slow. That's probably going to be another video, right? Well, basically, because some people go too slow with the progress, right? And then they make no progress, right? But you also don't want to rush into things as well, right? And then burn yourself out, and then you give up completely, right? And the other video I'll probably make is another video on addiction specifically, right? Comment that below if you do want that, right? So how do we basically kill your cope core, if that's what you want to call it, right? Your coping like hit list, right? Number one, identify your weaknesses. Number two, actually, identify your weaknesses, right? Again, like I said, be brutally honest, bro. Brutally honest, right? You don't have to tell anyone. If you're brave enough, you can say it in the comment section below, right? You can list, okay, these are my copes, and this is what I'm gonna do to get rid of these copes. If you feel brave enough, right? You don't have to mention them all. You can mention a couple, right? Number two is eliminate distractions. Whatever fuels your bad habits, cut it off, right? So, like for example, junk food, right? Again, watch my video on how to quit junk food specifically, right? But I'm just using this as an example. For junk food, like whatever fuels your bad habit, cut it off. So, like I said in that video, right? I said to specifically get rid of junk food in the house, right? Go and donate. Go and donate your junk food, right? Go. Donate to like the homeless shelters out there, right? Or people who need it, right? Right? Because you don't need it, right? Especially if you have a roof over your head and everything, right? And you have the basic life necessity, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I've actually read that whole book, right? Interesting book. But yeah, point is, right? You don't need this. Yeah, you don't need the junk food, right? Or whatever bad habit, right? Cut it off. Now, number three, replace that bad with good. So if, let's say you, for example, cope with social media, right? Like you're just doom scrolling, you're not even posting anything, right? A lot of people, I honestly, in my honest opinion, having a private account is literally the dumbest thing, right? So replace it with reading, right? Because there's there really is not that much valuable, except for maybe on like YouTube, I guess. YouTube is probably the exception. But even on YouTube, unfortunately, people doom scroll, right? Because now they've added the shorts feature, right? So yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. Right? Replace it with another good habit, right? It could be some form of work, or it could be reading. That's what I suggest, right? Or even listening to an audiobook, right? That's what I like to do. Honestly, that's how I read so much, right? Like, or another one, like for example, like again, junk food, right? When you donate your junk food, you can get rid of it. Replace it with healthy snacks, right? And I mean like real healthy snacks, right? Watch the video. I explain it in there in more detail, right? Right. Start eating good, healthy food that tastes good, right? Right. And then number 4, build discipline through action. So basically, it's about action, right? And consistent action specifically. Start small, not too slow though, right? Or not too small, but stay consistent. The hardest part is the beginning, right? So start off with the beginning, right? And one thing I used to say to people, especially when they're new to working out, is just work out every day, even if it's like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, right? And look, you don't have to get into specific routines. If you do want that, I do recommend joining my Patreon. I will give you more detail on that, and it will be faster, right? But just work out every day. Like, that's just an analogy, right? Just do it every day, right? Even if it's 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes is better than nothing, right? And the problem is, most people don't want to do this because it's hard, and that's exactly why they stay the same, right? Some of you are going to watch this video, and then you're going to, like, deep down, you know what I'm saying is true. But again, your coping mechanisms in your mind, right? Like Satan, basically, is literally going to tell you, oh no, it's fine. He was just yapping. You don't need to listen to him. Deep down, you know it's true. Deep down, right? Right? That voice in your head is going to be telling you, no. But then there's also going to be like deep down, you also know it's true, right? And look, these things are hard, right? It's not easy defeating your coping mechanisms, right? I I would say like I pretty much have defeated most of mine, but I probably have some other ones, right? I can't think of any right now, but even I have to, like, take off that coping mechanism, right? Even I'm probably carrying some weight, right? It's just like Atlas, right? So yeah, but I'm glad that I've gotten rid of so many of them, right? Life is a lot easier now because I've gotten rid of them, right? And it was hard. Trust me, it was hard, but it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be because I stayed consistent, right? And that's why I didn't stay the same. Look, at the end of the day, man, like, you basically have two choices in life: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? The pain of discipline includes waking up early, training hard, eating right, staying focused, right? And other things that maybe cater specifically towards your life needs, right? The pain of regret is waking up years from now, wishing you had done things differently starting now. You're gonna look back right now and then say, I wish I had done this and this and this. Well, instead of wishing for it, well, let's just do it today. You need one pain makes you stronger, and the other destroys you. Right? That's the difference between the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. So tell me, man. Yeah, I basically told you how to destroy your coping mechanisms, right? So tell me, which pain will you choose now? I want you to start today. Destroy your copes before they destroy you. And that's like the one thing you need to fix. Be brutally honest, bro. Just like I'm basically on your side more than you are on your own side. Right? Like if you really think about it, I'm on your side more than even you. Your brain is actually more of an enemy to you, unfortunately, because you don't have that discipline, right? And you don't have someone that's calling it out. most people don't have that, like, voice in their head that's actually calling out themselves, right? Because they have an incredible coping mechanism that they've developed over the years, right? Because when you cope for so long, you develop this insane, like, you can come up with an excuse for anything, right? Like, again, there's this one guy I know, I won't mention names or anything, right? But he sees me posting consistently, right, on social media, and he wants to start doing this, right? And look, I told him, like, bro, like, yeah, just start. You know what I mean? Like, oh, but I need to get the camera and everything. I'm gonna start after the camera. I'm like, bro, just start with your phone, right? Like, nah, just start with your phone. That's really actually what I'm using most of the time, and my laptop, right? For these longer videos, I use my laptop, but for the shorter videos, I use my phone majority of the time. And it's like, I told him every little thing that you needed to do, right, to post content and everything. And you know what he does? He copes. He copes. And I'm like, okay, look, I'm gonna say this one last time. If you don't post tomorrow, you're gay. So I told him. And what did he do? Despite that, you know what he proved to me? That he was gay. Right? And I said, look, bro. Like, he's like, oh, no, wait, I'm gonna. And then the day passes, and then he keeps coping, bro. And it's just like, and nothing against him, like, but it's like, man, you just lose so much respect. Because it's like, I gave you all this intel, and you didn't do it. So why in the hell did you ask me for it? If you were never just gonna do it. Right? Right? It's like you tell, like, a fat person, right? You give him all this advice, right? Do this and this. Just start, bro. Just start. Like, just start. Right? Just forget about, like, the little nitty gritty stuff. Just start, bro. Just start. Literally, you will figure it out on the path. You're not gonna figure it out today, but today you will start. That's literally the most important thing. So start today, right? Not tomorrow. At least today, do the process. At least put in the process. Okay, you know what? Maybe you're watching this and it's like really late at night, right? Okay, fine. Today, start the process. Get your clothes ready, right? If, for example, right, if you're gonna go work out, if you start working out tomorrow, get your clothes ready, right? Get a bag and put them in the bag or whatever. Get your workout clothes, get the water ready and everything, and then tomorrow go, right? But if it's the morning time, start today, okay? Right? At least start today or start the process today, right? Because deep down, when you keep coping, not only do you disrespect yourself, which is like terrible, right? But people also disrespect you. And it's like, man, it's like both of those are bad. Like, man. But hopefully I've made my point clear, right? Like, I cannot stress it enough. Please give up the cope, right? Start today. And, you know, and if you really, really are struggling, like, with defeating your coping mechanisms, again, like I said, you can join my Patreon, right? It is linked below, right? And you will get my one-to-one, like, help to help defeat these coping mechanisms, like I did with junk food and everything, and other things as well, right? So join the Patreon, right? If you really need that help, it's worth the investment, and it's not even that expensive, right? It's worth it, definitely, right? And you will get my direct assistance, right? And it'll be a fraction, like a fraction of the time, and you'll defeat them easily, right? But yeah, like and subscribe, and until next time.